Hey everybody, this is Angel Arts, and welcome back to another exciting interview for the upcoming Pokemon Tabletop campaign. I am here joined by Geoff.
I'm Geoff.
Yes. My first question, Geoff, is did you make your bed this morning?
Oh, I actually did.
Oh, well, wow.
I'm pulling out all the stops here.
You're moving up in the world. You're trying to give a very good impression for this interview. Now that we are taking it to the next level, you decided to take it to the next level yourself.
Oh yeah.
I'm very pleased.
Maybe
Okay.
next time I'll add like a poster or something on the wall.
Yes. So, Geoff, we're going to start right away directly into the out of character questions. So, my first question is what exactly is it about the Pokemon universe or franchise that you are passionate about?
I guess it's kind of two parts. Um, One of them really is the nostalgia factor. I mean, like I probably, along with many other people, grew up with these games, and I always kind of wanted it to be, have Pokemon in the real world, and like Pokemon Go kind of rekindled that. Um, but just the idea of having, this like magical animal friend to go on like a quest to discover, over 100 of new friends. And, since we can't do that in the real world, I guess having a tabletop sort of experience is the next best thing. The other thing that I'm sort of interested and passionate about was actually triggered by your prompt, to kind of look back at the Pokemon world with like an eye on realism. And so I know that like, thematically it's meant for kids, with like Pokemon fainting instead of actually dying. But if you look at it sort of with a real world sort of maybe eye on things, number one, they have kind of fascinating technology with like Pokeballs and like this whole, the theories out there about matter to energy transfer. Um, but also, I kind of the inspiration from my character was thinking about, okay, so, these kids are going out in the real world. Um, Me as a 10-year-old, I could barely keep a Tamagotchi alive. So, like, how would I handle that? And then, battling Pokemon, first of all, is it ethical?
Mhm.
Like the whole in-world explanation is that, they like to have these sort of friendly contests. But I was thinking, okay, if this Pokemon is getting repeatedly knocked out, in the real world, that would cause repetitive head injury syndrome.
Yep.
And so that kind of got me thinking about like fighting and boxers and the kind of the backstory of my character, where like, okay, so if I'm, this kid, what would happen if through like ignorance or negligence, my best friend in the world was like severely injured, and what would be the consequences of having to deal with that as I grew up?
Yes.
And so that kind of, got me started. And I
Yep.
think Pokemon has a lot of hidden depth
Yep.
to it. So I'm really excited to explore that.
All of those questions, all of those themes are like you get it. That is totally what this campaign is supposed to explore. So
Awesome.
very, very cool. That is totally yes, completely. You totally get the mindset. Awesome. My second question, Geoff, is what is it about tabletop gaming that you are passionate about?
So that I actually have thought about before. Um, Personally, I feel like one of the, greatest tragedies of the real world, we only have, one set of experiences growing up. And with, tabletop and role playing, you can really explore like, okay, what if I was, born in a different area or, born in the world with magic and stuff? What if I had different experiences to really, really think about how someone else would interact with the world? And I find that really fascinating and exciting. Like one of the things I look for, in role playing is I kind of want to be surprised and discover my character act. And I don't think you can really do that with computer games. They're great and all. Obviously I love them, um, but like a dialogue tree can only give you so much. There's there's anonymous Pokemart employee number 7 versus something like, a Payne's practical product character, like a real kind of person that you can get to know.
Right.
So I think that's just way fun.
What do you believe makes you a good player to play with?
um, I guess uh, I try to be, fun and entertaining. Um, I'm really easygoing. I tend to get along easily with everyone, but in character, I'm willing to, pick a fight with someone if I feel that it will kind of enrich the experience or it's necessary to the character. Um, I'm willing to sort of put myself out there and really try to embody my character.
What do you think would be your biggest challenge as a player, and how would you try to overcome said challenge?
Well, I think as a player, my biggest challenge is I'm sort of a recovering power gamer. My
Mm,
first instinct when I get into an RPG is to, theory craft, which I love, and just come up with like the best build, the perfect set of, abilities and stat allocation. But I've really tried with role playing to sort of get beyond that and, really feel like it's, okay and even sometimes better to have a flawed character, something that
yeah,
feels a lot more real.
yeah,
And so I try to, especially like with this character and the other characters I've made, I try to build thematically because I'm not, it's not an RPG. You're not going to go out and solo the world. You don't have to be the best at everything.
yeah.
Um, but I think in character, my biggest challenge with this campaign is sort of having this pessimistic character that is willing to go out on a quest. So I
Hmm.
feel like I'll have to do some character development to actually make that fit.
I like that's a really honest answer. I've been in a position where I've had power gamers in a campaign in my campaigns before. It doesn't really work. It doesn't
Yeah,
really help them for my campaigns because
I and I've like as I've gained more roleplay experience watching your campaigns and like other people's campaigns like Geek and Sundry, um, I get how like metagaming can kind of ruin everyone's enjoyment and immersion, and so I do try hard to avoid that.
as you know, this campaign is unique in that you actually will be able to play two characters, your main character as well as somebody else's Pokemon.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to ask you if you could pick any non legendary Pokemon to be in the Pokemon franchise, which Pokemon would you like to be and why?
Well, besides, the favorite Pokemon I mentioned, I think I would want to play sort of like a misunderstood Pokemon, like maybe a Cubone, where, in their, Pokedex entry, it's grieving over its mother, and yet, you know, you go out, you catch or befriend or whatever a Cubone, and you kind of have to maybe be a caretaker with the Cubone, and the Cubone kind of wants to help its trainer, but still has to deal with its own sort of grief.
We're going to go on to the main role playing portion. So, this is how we're going to set up the scene. Um, the idea is I wanted to hypothetically pretend that okay, so is your name right this moment
It's
Parker Houston or
Parker,
Houston? It'll
Parker
be
Houston.
Parker. Okay.
Okay.
Nothing's set in stone right now, but just for the purposes of the interview, we'll say that your name is Parker Houston, and we'll hypothetically pretend that he is applying for a job. Now, you said that he used to be something, but now he is working as a sanitation worker. So you can decide whether you would like to role play him applying for the sanitation worker job, or if you want to role play him, maybe he is currently a sanitation worker and he wants to apply for a different job. Whichever of those two, it doesn't matter. Whatever you think would be better for you to role play?
I think sanitation worker,
Okay.
like right where he's at, I feel like that would be his kind of only job.
Okay. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So, Parker Houston, he finds this job. He wants to attempt to apply to become a sanitation worker. So he goes to this hiring agency. It is a relatively large building. When you enter through the double doors as they slide open, the building's pretty sterile, except for all of the great posters and banners, like inspirational, and you can have the dream job of, well, your dreams. And maybe there's a bulletin board that has a bunch of postings that the community has posted up. But you have your paperwork with you, and you go over to the guy at the front desk. Looks you, gives you a little bit of a up and down look as he's looking at your paper and says, "Oh, sanitation. That's important. Very important."
I would agree.
He takes a stamp, and then he stamps your application. He hands the paper back to you and says, "All right, so this is what we need you to do to continue on to your screening process. If you would just go down that hall, that over there, go to room 797, and Madame Vu will take care of you."
Oh, that's all.
Uh,
Okay.
other than the screening, that's all.
All right. I guess we'll kind of.
Oh, and just to warn you, this whole process, it's sort of new for us. We're trying this out for the next month or so. It might seem a little unorthodox. My recommendation, just go with it. Just go with it.
I'll just kind of turn and walk away.
Okay. You turn and walk away, and you make your way to room 797. Except the thing about this room is that on the door itself, it's pretty much a folder, like a folder you would find in a filing cabinet that has 797 written on it in magic marker, and it's just taped on the door. It's a little loose, so if you were to try to look slightly behind said folder on the door, it's covering what looks like the word janitor. So clearly, this used to be a janitor closet or something. Apparently, it's been repurposed to do something else. But you're not really sure unless you decide to open said door.
Um, Whatever. I'll just kind of knock on the door.
You knock on the door, and the door swings open, almost as if it opens by itself with a creak. The first thing that you notice is that your nostrils are immediately invaded by the scent of incense. You can hear faintly some weird music coming from deeper into the room, and directly in front of you, once the door swings open, is a beaded curtain.
Uh, Madame Vu.
That is right, darling. Come in. Come in. As you hear a female voice from behind the beaded curtain.
I'll just kind of push my way through the beads and look
You
around.
push your way through the beads, and, well, I'm not sure what you expected to see, but what you end up seeing before you is a relatively dimly lit room, candles flickering around. There's a giant table in front of you with, yes, a crystal ball. And seated behind said table is this woman with very dark skin in very ostentatious clothing, and she has sort of like a headdress, a purple headdress on her head. And, she's got long fingernails, lots of bracelets, necklaces, and everything. And she kind of eyes you as you go in, and she says, "Your screening awaits, my dear. Have a seat, have a seat. I am Madame Vu, Deja'Vu, but you can call me Madame Vu. Please, have a seat."
just kind of unceremoniously take a seat. So, do you want my paperwork?
She says, that will be a good start, yes.
I'll hand it over.
You hand it over to her. She takes a quick glance. She places it right off to her right side. And then she says, all right. So, for your screening, I know all, see all, as it pertains to this job. And all you have to do is to answer these questions. There aren't very many of them, honestly and to the best of your ability. And this will determine whether the stars align and will tell you if you are a good fit for this job.
I didn't know that sanitation work was so closely related to the astral plane.
She says, honey, if you hear the kind of things that people talk about in the washroom, it definitely can. Yes. Very, very interesting things, magical things happen when you're sitting there contemplating. At any rate, she places her hands down onto the table, and to your, I guess, not surprise, kind of, you know, rolls her shoulders a little bit, and she starts making these really bizarre. She sort of spazzes out a little bit. And before you even realize that you probably can't take any more of this anymore, she stops and stands upright, very rigid, and she says, "Ah, I see that there has been a lot of conflict in your prior job. Combative conflict, I see. You have had a lot of physical fighting in your past."
Did the facial scars tell you that? Or was it a Jirachi?
That helped, she says. Tell me, you are clearly skilled and have a lot of knowledge in such things. Why sanitation work?
Uh, I'm kind of sick of fighting. Like, this is where I'm being driven, most recently from community service, but I have no sense of smell. I'm willing to lift heavy things. Just seems like a good fit.
Lack of sense of smell. How practical. Yes. Yes. I sense this. Tell me then. You believe that then despite all this you are fully qualified for this position. I see that.
Well, like I said, I'm willing to lift heavy things. I won't complain about smells. And I have experience picking up trash and moving it around.
That being said though, if they were to hire you, they also, by extension, will inadvertently be hiring someone else who has a very close bond with you. A Ralt is what I see. What exactly type of role would it play in such a position?
Well, frankly, I feel like the little rascal gets into trash way more than is healthy to begin with. So, if it's the same to you, I'd prefer if you would just stay at home where it's safe as opposed to being out in the street.
How would you describe your bond or relationship with this creature?
Well, I look out for him. Um, don't know what he sees in me, but he obviously wants to stick around.
You say that you want this job for a new change, perhaps a fresh start. You say that you do not wish to fight anymore. Is there anything else that you hope to get out of this experience this position?
Uh, Quite frankly, if we cut all the Toros poo, I'm just looking for a job. I know you're trying this whole new screening, and I hope it works out for you, but I'm just looking for a job.
An honest answer. That's exactly the type of answer I'm looking for. Very well. My questions are complete. I have no further questions, but I do have one more thing that I would like before you're dismissed. A psychological exercise, if you will. Are you by any
Okay.
chance familiar with the three tarot fortune? The three card tarot fortune?
What is that? Past, present, ghost of Christmas past?
You got it. Yes, three cards, one that represents your past, present, and future. However, we're not going to do that. In fact, we are going to do semi the reverse. I have a deck of cards here, and she will hand you a deck of cards. Now, these deck of cards, however, out of character, are not tarot cards. They actually are cards that represent on each card one of the Pokemon types.
Oh,
And then she will explain to you. I want you to look through this deck of cards, and I want you to select one to represent your past, one to represent your present, and another to represent your future, and interpret them for me.
well, I'm sure your stars told you this was coming, but here's fighting card for past. Big shocker. Obviously, I do have a past with fighting. And I guess that has played a part in making me who I am. The man that's slouching here in front of you. And that brings us to a very normal present. I'm just here looking for a job, jumping through hoops. So hopefully something will impress you. I know a lot of normal types may seem lackluster, a lot of spirit. And as for future, I guess it'll be ghost. Can't see what it is right now, and quite frankly, it's a mystery.
We are done. And with that, she takes a stamp and then, once again, stamps her papers. One more thing, dear, before you leave the premises, the final part of this application process. If you go next door, there will be a camera set up that will be sent, the footage of which will be sent directly to your employer. That is your chance to give your pitch to the employer as to why they should hire you in this position, in your own words. And with that, she kind
And
of,
that's the last thing.
that's the last thing.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Deja. Hopefully, this is the last I see of you. Meaning I get the job. I'll just kind of turn and walk away. Well, sir or madam, I guess what you see is what you get. I'm just a guy willing to work for you. And I don't really care what it involves. I can be there because I have nowhere else to be. That's enough for you. If it's not, I probably want to work with you anyway.